right, here we go. So, just a quick reminder, solving equations with square roots, you need to open up to your binder, to your yellow note sheet that says solving equations with square roots. When you're looking at those notes, after you circle your variable, and after you draw your line of equality, it tells you that you need to do one more thing. What's the one more thing you need to do, Daisha?
Box of square roots.
Yeah, so what is going to be in the box here?
The two gonna be with it.
Is the 2 going to be with it?
Oh no.
No.
60 plus 1.
Good. The 2's not going to be with it because it's not under that square root sign. Now, the whole reason why we box that square root is because we want to get that square root by itself. So we're going to have to use the golden rule in order to get the square root by itself. Now, I have 2 other numbers, the 2 and the 1, that's on the outside of that box that I'm going to have to get rid of. Which one am I going to get rid of first and why? How do you know? So, if I'm going to get this square root by itself, I have to get rid of the 2 and the 1. But which one am I going to get rid of first?
The first one.
The 1. And how do we know that, Alex? Can somebody, you're right. Yeah, because we're going to follow SADMAP. So there's no subtraction. Well, there's addition right here. Inverse operation for addition is subtraction. And the golden rule, whatever I do to one side, I do to the other.
Right.
So then on my left side, I bring everything else down except for the 1 because I got rid of that. And then the right side, 15 minus 1, 14. Okay? Is the square root by itself?
Nah, you got to put that 2.
How do I get rid of the 2?
Divide 2. No.
Divide. No, you're right. Because the 2 is touching the square root sign. It's kind of like a 2 touching a variable or a parenthesis. And the opposite of that would be divide. So because that's touching the square root sign, that means multiply. Inverse operation is divide. Whatever I do to one side, we know we do to the other. So on my left side now, I bring down square root, 6c plus 1. Then the right side, what's 14 divided by 2? 7. Now is my square root by itself? Yeah. So if my square root's by itself, what's the next step that I do? Square it. The reason why I square it is because square and square root are inverse operations, meaning they cancel each other out.
Right.
But if I square one side, I have to make sure I square the other side.
So they're going to be...
So what do I bring down on my left side? Answer that first. What do I bring down on my left side? Good, without the square root sign. Then the right side? 49. Now what type of equation do I have? What kind of equation is this?
Inverse operation.
No. What kind of equation now do I have? Not a one step, but a two step. So what do I get rid of first? According order of operations backwards. Do I have any subtraction?
Yeah.
Any addition?
Yeah.
So I get rid of that plus 1 first.
Right, going to be a negative 1.
That's right. Okay. Come on. So on my left side, I bring down the 6c. Right side. 49 minus 1, David? 49 minus 1? 48. And Jair, how do I get the c by itself?
Divide both sides by 6.
And then c equals what, Jair? Perfect. And box it. Nice job. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and set the second one up just how we always do by circling our variable, drawing our line of equality. Now for this particular problem, I need to make sure I only box the square root. Danielle, what's the square root here? What am I going to put the box around?
2b plus 1.
Perfect. So now I need to get that square root by itself. It's a little tricky. What am I going to get rid of first?
Your bottom number, your 3.
Yeah, your 3. How do you get rid of the 3? You a little crabby back there, Kaylon? What's the matter?
Yeah, get his wisdom teeth pulled from
Oh, I saw that you had that. Let me see. Take your hand down. You look like a little chipmunk. Yep. We'll call you Alvin. All right, Alvin. Sorry, I watched the chipmunks all weekend. That's all Xander's obsessed with right now. Okay, so on my left side, I bring down the 2 plus square root of 2b plus 1. And on my right side, 3 times 3, 9. Next step, what do I get rid of next? The 2. How do I get rid of the 2? Nice job, Kira. I was hoping somebody would say this. Subtract 2. Whatever I do to one side,
To the other, man.
I do to the other.
You bring the rest on the left side.
Okay, which would be what, Damon?
Inside the prince.
Not inside the
Well,
parentheses.
inside that box.
What's that thing called?
2b plus 1.
What's that sign called?
Square root.
Square root. Good.
Come on, we-
Right side,
2.
9 minus 2, 7. Is my square root by itself?
No.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so now what do I do?
Don't you?
Square it. Square both sides. Square and square root cancel. Left side I bring down 2b plus 1. Right side I have
49.
49. And then I'm down to a two-step equation.
That's the easy, man. Negative 1.
Minus 1 on both sides.
You start saying negative. It sounds good.
Okay. What do I bring down on my left side?
2b.
Equals.
48.
Okay. How do I get the b by itself?
Divide.
By
That's my son.
b equals
8.
what?
Oh.
24.
24 sounds much better.
You thought I was right. Don't cut your hand.
I was trying to motivate you.
That was that. Keep it going, Damon. You're doing good. Nice job. So when you take your quiz tomorrow
What you mean?
over solving equations with square roots, when you take your quiz tomorrow, you will have 2 problems on the front. Those are the only 2 that you'll do. We won't focus on the ones on the back. We'll do those next week.
Only got 2 questions.
All right, flip your opener over, though. We are going to finish off the back side.
You just say we're doing this?
That's what we're going to focus on next week, but we're going to go ahead and answer our opener. So 7 squared, what does 7 squared equal?
48.
49.
49.
Woo.
7 times 7?
But I ain't look at my stuff, but I just want to talk to you.
Stop. Then we have negative 7 squared. So
Negative 49.
what's negative 7 times negative 7?
Positive.
Yeah, positive 49. So all that's basically telling us
You said negative going to be positive.
2 negatives multiplied together is going to be a positive. Good. So all that's telling us, well, before I answer that, let's solve this one. So now I have a squared equals 49. Now, square and square root, they're very similar steps. So we're going to circle our variable. We're going to draw our line of equality. Then we're going to box what's being squared. Well, the only thing that's being squared here is the a squared, right? Now, what's the inverse operation for squared? How can I get the square out of there? What's the opposite of squared? Yeah, you guys do. What's the opposite of, when we are solving equations with square roots, how do I get rid of the square root sign?
Cross.
How do I get rid of this sign? How do I get rid of that square root sign? What's the opposite?
two.
Squared, right? So if that cancels, so what's the opposite or the inverse operation for squared? What's the inverse operation for squared? Well, if the inverse operation of square root is squared, so what's the opposite of squared going to be?
That's square root.
Square root. So this time we'll square root it. If I square root one side of my line of equality, I square root the other.
Got you.
So I bring down my a. So then you have to think, what is the square root of 49? 7. Now, remember last week I said it can be tricky? Because if you look here, 7 squared gets me to 49, and negative 7 gets me to 49. So really, the square root of 49 could be 7, or it could be what? Negative 7. I'm not going to make you have 2 answers. I'm only going to make you have 1. Okay? So that's where we're going to stop.